What if I told you that certain words don't just come to you by chance, that there's hidden knowledge that only reveals itself at the exact right moment, and that moment could be now? Vitriol, a symbol lost in time. A secret key that, according to ancient alchemists, only shows up when the soul is ready to see beyond the obvious. But why did this formula find its way to you? What does this calling mean? Esoteric tradition teaches that the deepest symbols aren't found by the ones who go looking for them, but by the ones who actually need them. They appear when all your certainties fall apart, when your mind can no longer hold on to what once felt safe, and that's when something wakes up, something that's been there all along, but can only be seen now. Vitriol isn't just some Hermetic concept, it's a map for transformation. But the real question is, are you ready to step through this portal? Esoteric tradition has always taught that the deepest symbols aren't discovered by chance. They are found the moment the seeker reaches the breaking point, when everything that once felt certain starts to crumble, when old beliefs turn to dust, when the pain of doubt outweighs the comfort of illusion. It is at this exact moment that something awakens, something that has always been there but can only now be seen. A spiritual crisis is the turning point. The collapse of illusions is the true beginning of the path, and vitriol only reveals itself to those who have reached that limit, to those who can no longer cling to what once felt safe, to those who have realized that truth isn't in what was taught, but in what must be rediscovered within. Hermetic teachings speak of initiatic synchronicity, the idea that certain keys only appear when someone is ready to use them, and if you are standing before this word now, maybe it's not by chance. Alchemy, more than just an occult science, follows the law of spiritual necessity. Nothing is revealed before its time. Nothing presents itself to those who don't need it. Knowledge only emerges when it becomes a necessity, not just a curiosity. And that's why vitriol cannot be learned as mere information. It must be lived. It must be felt. It must be recognized within the seeker's own experience. Because vitriol does not manifest in the light of certainty. It appears in the dark night of the soul. The fog of time hides many secrets. Some are lost forever. Others, however, seem to cross the centuries, protected by invisible hands, waiting for the right moment to be rediscovered. And among these mysteries, preserved in the shadows of history, there is a name that echoes through the halls of alchemy. Basilius Valentinus, a Benedictine monk from the 15th century, surrounded by legends and speculation. Little is known about him. Some believe he never actually existed, that his identity was just a mask to conceal forbidden knowledge. But if there's one thing that has survived the ages, it's his message. It is said that a young alchemy apprentice, eager to understand the mysteries of transformation, approached him and asked, "Master, what is the greatest secret of the alchemical art?" The monk could have handed him a treatise. He could have spoken of complex processes, of metals and formulas. But he didn't. He looked at the young man and said just one word: vitriol? The answer, instead of bringing clarity, deepened the mystery even further. The apprentice expected an explanation, but true knowledge is never given directly. This enigmatic method is characteristic of the old masters. Instead of offering ready-made answers, they gave doors, and it was up to the seeker to find the key to open them. In alchemy, nothing is given without effort. Understanding cannot be acquired like ordinary information. It must be earned, absorbed, and deciphered through experience. And vitriol, in that single word spoken by the master, was more than just a teaching. It was a challenge, a coded riddle, a silent invitation to the inner journey. Restless, the apprentice began searching for its meaning. He scoured manuscripts, investigated symbols, and walked the paths of esoteric tradition. But little by little, he realized that the real answer was not outside. The monk had not given him a formula, he had given him a mirror. Because vitriol isn't something you memorize, it's something you live through. And only the ones who dare to walk through that door find out what's really on the other side. But what does this mysterious word actually mean? What was Basilius Valentinus trying to reveal when he said vitriol? The answer, like always, isn't sitting on the surface. It demands a deep dive. The alchemists never handed over their secrets directly. They spoke in symbols, in metaphors, in riddles that could only be understood by those ready to cross the threshold of ordinary knowledge. Vitriol is one of those secrets, a hidden call for those who have the guts to descend. Its 7 letters hide a coded acrostic. Visita interiora terrae rectificando invenies occultum lapidem. Visit the interior of the earth, and by refining, you will find the hidden stone. But this earth isn't the physical world. It's not about mines or underground caves. The alchemical descent happens inside yourself. This is the journey of the true adept, a trip down the dark hallways of your own psyche, where everything you've repressed, hidden, or forgotten is waiting to be faced. Jung described this journey as a confrontation with the unconscious, an unavoidable face-off with everything we try to ignore. Esoteric tradition always knew this. The ancients talked about the initiatic catabasis, the descent into the underworld, a story you see in myths and religions across time. Heroes went down to the land of the dead, Orpheus searching for his beloved Eurydice, Hercules facing Cerberus, Christ descending into hell before resurrection. But these aren't just stories, they're encoded maps of the inner journey. Because before you can reach the light, you have to go through the dark. The alchemist isn't chasing literal gold. They're after the transformation of the self, and that takes purification. Anyone brave enough to visit the interior of the earth has to be ready for what they'll find. Buried traumas, forgotten memories, uncomfortable truths. Everything swept under the rug of consciousness comes back up, and there's nowhere left to hide. The refining is the process of separating the heavy from the subtle, the impure from the essential, dissolving what's fake, polishing the rough stone until its true essence shines through. Very few are willing to walk this path, because looking inside yourself takes serious courage. Facing your own shadows is far from comfortable, but it's the only way, and only those who surrender to that descent ever find the real spiritual gold. Vitriol and the sacred symbols. The ancients knew that certain truths couldn't just be handed out to anyone. Alchemical knowledge was dangerous in the wrong hands, not because it contained material secrets, but because it had the power to transform anyone who truly understood it. That's why they hid their lessons in symbols, in circular diagrams, where every line carried meaning, in mysterious emblems, where hands pointed to the stars, showing connections between heaven and earth, in images of the sun and moon pouring their essences into a chalice, showing the fusion of opposites. Vitriol isn't some regular formula. It doesn't speak directly. It whispers. And only those who've learned how to listen can understand its message. Over the centuries, this tradition was preserved. The Egyptians carved their mysteries into hieroglyphs that only initiates could read. The alchemists hid their science in intricate engravings, where every detail was a piece of a much larger code. The Rosicrucians used emblems that looked like simple illustrations, but secretly contained spiritual maps. Nothing was written in plain language. The real teaching was never in the text itself. It was in your ability to see beyond the surface. And this story I'm about to share with you now proves exactly what we're talking about. Listen closely. One day, a king gathered all the wise men of his kingdom. He wanted a book that contained all the knowledge of the world, something that, if someone read it, would allow them to understand the mysteries of existence. The wise men got to work and spent years writing a massive encyclopedia. When they presented it to the king, he rejected it. It was too long. Hardly anyone would have the patience to read the whole thing. He told them to condense it. So the wise men worked again. They cut it down to a single volume. The king read it, but still thought it was too much. After a long time, they came back with a single scroll, just one sentence written on it. The king read it, and this time he smiled, because in that one line was all the wisdom he had been looking for. What did it say? What you are searching for is already inside you. That's the essence of symbolic language. Real knowledge was never something external, something you could just pass from one person to another. It has to be awakened, and for those who aren't ready, no explanation will ever be enough. Vitriol follows this exact tradition. It can't be understood by someone who just reads the words. It has to be contemplated, decoded, lived. And those who learn to hear its whispers find much more than some ancient secret. They find themselves. The ancients used to say that the universe is a mirror, an endless reflection where everything happening in the macrocosm repeats itself in the microcosm. Heaven and earth, the visible and the invisible, humanity and the divine. It was Hermes Trismegistus who revealed this truth in the Emerald Tablet, one of the most mysterious texts in all of Hermetic tradition. His words still echo today, holding a secret that only a few have dared to unlock. What is above is like what is below, and what is below is like what is above, to accomplish the miracle of the one thing. But what does that really mean? It's not just some metaphor. It's a cosmic equation, a hidden key that shows how everything in existence is connected by the same law. What the ancient alchemists were after wasn't just turning base metals into gold. That was only a reflection of the real search. The true purpose of the great work was always the transformation of the self. And this is where vitriol shows up as the practical application of that wisdom. When the formula says, visit the interior of the earth, and by refining, you will find the hidden stone, it's describing a process that happens on two levels at once. The descent into the earth isn't just about the physical world. It represents the spirit's journey into matter, just like consciousness has to descend into its deepest layers to find the truth. And rectification, that's the key. To rectify means to correct, to purify, to refine. Just like the alchemist heats the metals to burn away their impurities, the soul has to go through that same process of refinement. But to find the hidden stone, the philosopher's stone, you can't just go down. You have to understand what's actually being transformed. Hermes Trismegistus taught that all things follow the same pattern. Just like nature's cycles govern the transformation of elements, those same cycles govern human consciousness. The gold that external alchemy searches for is nothing more than a reflection of inner gold, the gold that can only be found when mind, body, and spirit come into harmony, and that is the true miracle of the one thing. Just like the universe reflects the soul, the human body is also a map of transmutation. Every element, every vibration, every energy center holds a piece of the great secret. The ancients knew that the real alchemical work didn't just happen in the lab. It happened inside the self. Vitriol isn't just a formula. It's a path, a process of vibrational initiation that unfolds through the 7 inner portals of the subtle body. Each letter represents a stage of this journey, revealing a connection between consciousness, alchemical metals, and esoteric planets. Every one of these portals must be crossed, every layer must be purified, every energy must be refined until the being aligns with their highest essence. Visita, Saturn, lead, root. Chakra, the journey starts at the densest point, where everything is still raw. Saturn is the master of time, the guardian of boundaries. Lead is the heavy metal, full of impurities. The root chakra rules stability, the deepest fears, the chains tied to matter. Here, the alchemist faces their prisons, their most primitive shadows. Anyone who's too afraid to visit this realm will never be able to move forward. Interiora, Jupiter, tin, sacral, chakra. As the traveler moves ahead, they meet Jupiter, the planet of expansion. Tin is flexible, representing the mind beginning to open to new paths. The sacral chakra holds the energy of desire, creation, and life's flow. This portal teaches that learning requires surrender, that movement is necessary to break stagnant patterns. Terre, Mars, Iron, solar plexus. Here, the journey gets intense. Mars is the fire of war, action, and the courage to face one's own fears. Iron, the warrior's metal, stands for the strength needed to push through this stage. The solar plexus rules identity, confidence, and willpower. At this point, the alchemist must destroy everything that's holding them back. They have to face themselves. Rectificando, Venus, copper, throat chakra. Copper is the metal of connection and balance. Venus brings beauty, harmony, and the blending of opposites. The throat chakra is the center of truth, the power to express wisdom through words. After Mars's battle, this is where the initiate learns to communicate their essence, to align their voice with their deeper purpose. In Veni's, Mercury, crown chakra. Now, the great mediator of alchemy appears. Mercury is fluid, ever-changing, the element that unites what was once separated. The crown chakra is the gateway to higher mind, to connection with the divine. At this stage, the initiate goes beyond the ego and understands that there's no separation between themselves and the whole. Wisdom now flows like a river, without resistance. Occultum, moon, silver, third eye chakra. The moon rules over mysteries, intuition, the invisible world. Silver reflects the hidden light, bringing to the surface what was once buried. The third eye chakra is the center of inner vision, seeing beyond the veil of illusion. Here, consciousness awakens to realities that once seemed impossible to reach. The initiate now sees lapidem, sun, gold, heart, chakra. At the end of the journey, gold. The sun stands for illumination, the pure essence of being. Gold, the incorruptible metal, symbolizes the highest state of consciousness. The heart chakra, the center of love and unity, is where everything merges. The initiate becomes the philosopher's stone itself. There is no more seeking. They are. Each portal crossed is a layer of purification, a refinement of the soul. Each step of the journey is a transmutation from lead into inner gold. Vitriol isn't just some occult teaching. It's a vibrational code. Solve et coagula. The journey through the 7 inner portals transforms the seeker into something new, but that transformation doesn't happen without one essential process, dissolving everything that no longer serves. In alchemical tradition, this is the key to the great work. Nothing can be created without something being destroyed. Nothing can be elevated without leaving the weight of the past behind. This principle is summed up in the Hermetic phrase that defines all transmutation. Solve et coagula. First, you dissolve. Every crystallized piece of ego, every illusion of identity, every rigid structure that traps consciousness has to be broken down. This is the moment of symbolic death, a process that to the one going through it can feel like total collapse, but in reality, it's liberation. Then you coagulate. What's left after the breakdown? Only the essential, only what's true. With that purified material, a new structure can be built, a reborn being, reconstructed with awareness and purpose. This cycle repeats itself throughout the whole journey. Every time a layer dissolves, a deeper level becomes accessible. Every time the self is rebuilt, the initiate gets closer to the essence of the great work. But what's the final destination of all this? What's waiting at the end of this path? At the heart of vitriol, there's a secret, a hidden mystery that's always been there, but very few ever truly understand. The hidden stone. Most people have heard stories about the legendary Philosopher's Stone, the one that turns lead into gold, the one that grants wisdom and eternal life. But the alchemists were never just talking about physical matter. The real stone was never something you could hold in your hands. The hidden stone is the transformed self. It's not found out in the world. It reveals itself the moment all illusions collapse, when the masks dissolve, when the small, limited identity fades away and something greater emerges. The gold of alchemy isn't a metal. It's a state of consciousness. The one who crosses the shadows and purifies themselves realizes there was never anything to chase outside. It was always there, hidden, waiting to be seen. Vitriol doesn't teach you how to search for treasure. It teaches you that you are the treasure, and only those brave enough to walk through the fire of transmutation discover that truth. Transmutation is only complete when opposites meet, when the above reflects the below, when the dense merges with the subtle, when the visible and the invisible stop being opposites and become two sides of the same whole. That's why vitriol isn't just some abstract idea. It shows up as a living symbol, an alchemical diagram that holds the structure of all creation. At the center of this diagram, there's a sacred circle, the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, representing the endless cycle of death and rebirth, the constant movement of transformation, the journey with no beginning, and no end. Inside this circle, the sun and moon pour their essences into a chalice. Two forces that have always been seen as opposites, but are actually complementary. The sun is the active force, the light of consciousness, the spirit in its radiant form. The moon is the receptive force, intuition, the reflection of hidden light. Together, they represent the fusion of conscious and unconscious, of reason and deep wisdom. And between them, Mercury, the mediator, the bridge between worlds. The ancients called Mercury the key to the mysteries because it's both solid and liquid, fixed and volatile. It moves between matter and spirit, bringing together what once seemed separate. It's the principle that holds creation in balance, and that balance shows up in everything. Heaven and earth, masculine and feminine, spirit and matter. A true alchemist doesn't try to destroy one side to exalt the other. They understand that the fusion of these forces is what creates real transmutation. There is no gold without the lead that comes first. There's no light without the shadow that defines it. There's no awakening without passing through the darkness. And finally, the moment comes when the seeker realizes this journey was never about finding something outside themselves. Because vitriol isn't knowledge you collect, it's a mirror. It reflects exactly what's already inside the one looking at it. If you made it this far, if this word stirred something inside you, that's not random. There's a silent calling echoing in your soul, a calling you can only hear when you're ready to listen. The transmutation through vitriol. The alchemists never saw vitriol as just some philosophical concept. It was a practical tool, a map that guided the initiate through their inner journey. For them, this formula wasn't just something to think about. It was something to live. The alchemical process was always tied to personal transformation, and vitriol was the key that opened the inner portals. But how was this formula actually used? How did the alchemists apply this knowledge to unlock consciousness and access hidden mysteries? The first essential practice was meditation and contemplation. The alchemist would sit in front of the vitriol symbol and use it as a focal point. They didn't just read the words, they dove into the hidden meaning behind them. Visit the interior of the earth meant turning inward, exploring their own psyche, confronting their shadows and purifying them. This symbol-guided introspection helped dissolve limiting patterns and reveal deeper truths about their own existence. On top of meditation, alchemists worked with symbols and diagrams to deepen their understanding. Ancient alchemical engravings show the vitriol emblem surrounded by hidden elements, the skull representing the death of the ego, the serpent, symbol of transformation, the sun and moon representing the fusion of opposites. These diagrams weren't just pictures, they were vibrational codes designed to work directly on the initiate's mind, triggering higher states of awareness. Purification rituals also played a key role. The alchemist understood their body was a temple, and just like metals were purified in the lab, they had to purify themselves. Fasting, ritual baths, and using specific herbs were all common ways to clear heavy energies and prepare the body to receive inner wisdom. Studying sacred texts was another essential tool. Hermetic works like the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus taught that outer transformation was a reflection of inner transformation. The initiate dedicated themselves to decoding these hidden messages, pulling out instructions on how to guide their own transmutation. There was also the practice of external alchemy, but this was so much more than just working with metals. The physical processes of dissolving and coagulating were reflections of internal processes. When an alchemist worked with physical substances, they weren't just changing matter, they were training their mind to understand the cycles of life, death, and rebirth within themselves. All these practices combined made vitriol a true vibrational initiation. Each step of the process pulled the initiate deeper into their inner journey, helping them unlock their consciousness and access hidden dimensions of reality. The alchemists knew that just knowing the formula wasn't enough. You had to live it. Because the real secret of vitriol was never in the words. It was always inside the ones brave enough to walk through its gates. Now that you've heard vitriol's call, there's something even deeper waiting for you. I've got a special video lined up to help you take the next step in this journey. It's going to dive even deeper into everything we've talked about here and show you how to apply this knowledge in your life in a real practical way. So don't go anywhere. Click the video that's popping up on the screen right now and I'll meet you there. See you on the other side.